Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that is just wild. It starts on a public live stream, takes a sharp turn into claims of what looks like demonic possession, and somehow ends up with a medical procedure on an extraterrestrial operating table. Yeah, let's get into it.
So let's just start with this quote, right from the source report. This really sets the stage. We're talking about a life-or-death situation from the get-go. But the twist here is that according to the story, both the sickness and the cure are completely out of this world.
And yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? How does a guy on a live stream suddenly find himself on an alien ship? The journey between those 2 points is a bizarre one, involving claims of dark arts, a possession-like state, and a surprisingly, bureaucratic set of interstellar rules.
Okay, let's jump right into the deep end, to the most dramatic moment in this whole story. A man named Dakota Frandsen suddenly finds himself in what he can only describe as a futuristic medical bay. And on the table, it's BT, a guy he was just watching on a live stream a few hours before. And the person explaining all this is his star wife, Evina.
Now, before we go any further, you gotta understand this key player, the GFW, or the Galactic Federation of Worlds. Think of them like an interstellar organization with a very, very strict prime directive. They are only allowed to step in on Earth if a problem is extraterrestrial in origin. That rule is the key to everything that happens next.
So the official reason for this abduction, at least the one given to Frandsen, was a flat-out medical emergency. BT was apparently dying from an infection that was linked to the Nebu, another term for gray aliens. But Frandsen wasn't there to help with the surgery. His job was moral support. Seriously, he was just there to be a familiar face and help keep BT from panicking.
So, how in the world did BT get into a state where he needed an alien medical team? Well, the story really kicks off just a few hours earlier, during a public live stream where things went sideways fast.
So picture this live stream. You've got this wild cast of characters. There's Frandsen, our main subject BT, and 7 other people who the report says identified as witches practicing dark arts. And right in the middle of this broadcast, BT just collapses. He falls into this trance-like state, screaming about a sharp pain in his abdomen. To some, it looked exactly like a demonic possession.
So the first thing the other people on the stream do, they try what they know. The report describes them using exorcism prayers to try and snap BT out of it. But nothing. It had zero effect. Whatever was happening, it seemed to be beyond their abilities.
With those prayers failing, Frandsen decides to try something totally different. He plays a specific sound frequency, something called a sonified sigil. And this, right here, is the turning point. Because as BT himself said later, once that sound started playing, it was like it cut through all the noise and chaos. In that terrifying moment, all he could hear was Frandsen's voice and that frequency, and it pulled him back.
Okay, so BT is back, he's conscious. But you've got to understand, the live stream drama, that was just the opening act. It was the trigger for the main event, the full-on GFW intervention that went down later that same night.
And this timeline really shows you just how insane the pacing of this whole thing was. Night 1, the crisis on the live stream. Just a few hours after that, the abduction and the procedure. The very next morning, the 2 guys are on the phone trying to make sense of it. And then just 2 days later, BT ends up in a regular human hospital for a related issue. I mean, the speed is just staggering.
So what actually happened in this unearthly operating room? Well, the report breaks it down into 4 steps. First, these advanced tools lock onto the problem, a black mass in BT's abdomen. Then, and this is a wild detail, Frandsen is apparently allowed to help pull out this black goo substance. Right after that, automated medical systems kick in and start rapidly healing the tissue. But then, and this is where it gets really, really weird, they stop. They intentionally halt the procedure only partway through. And the reason why is the whole point of this story.
So this brings us to maybe the most important moment, validation. I mean, how do you even begin to process something like that? The next morning, a totally confused BT calls Frandsen. He says he thinks he was abducted, but maybe it was just a crazy dream. Frandsen's response was simple. It wasn't a dream, and I can prove it.
And here's how he proved it. Frandsen started listing off these incredibly specific, private details about BT's body. We're talking birthmarks nobody sees, the exact placement of his tattoos, stuff that Frandsen could have no way of knowing. According to the report, BT was just floored. He said the description was as accurate as what his own doctor would know.
But as you can imagine, not everyone involved saw things the same way. The 7 other people from the live stream, they developed their own story. They claimed Frandsen had actually attacked BT with that frequency, and that's what caused him to get so sick he ended up in the hospital. BT, on the other hand, came to the completely opposite conclusion. For him, Frandsen's intervention was what saved his life.
So that just brings up this massive question, right? If these beings had the technology to heal him, why on earth did they stop halfway through? Why leave him with what turned out to be an infected hernia? Well, it all comes back to those GFW protocols. They're super strict rules of engagement. And this quote right here is the whole reason, according to the source. The GFW's jurisdiction, their authority, was strictly limited to the alien part of the problem, that Nebu black goo. Once that was removed, their job was done. The physical hernia that the goo had caused, that was now a purely terrestrial problem, and by their own rules, they had to back off and leave it for Earth doctors to fix.
And this is what really nails down Frandsen's strange role in all this. He's not a doctor, he's not a soldier, he's a designated witness. His job, according to this, is twofold. 1, be a calming presence, a psychological anchor during the event itself, and 2, maybe more importantly, use the details he saw to prove to the person afterward that, yes, what you just went through was absolutely real. And just like that, we followed this incredible story from a live stream crisis all the way to an alien surgery governed by interstellar law.
And that leaves us with this really mind-bending question at the end of it all. When you get an event like this one, an event that pulls in what we might call advanced technology, but also has elements of what others would call magic or even a medical miracle, what do you even call it? The labels we have just don't seem to fit, and it forces you to wonder if the lines we draw between those things even really exist at all.